Welcome back to Filmmaster Reviews, I'm Adam J. With the recent release of The Batman, I thought it would be fun to finally rank the Batman movies and see where the new film, The Batman, stands among them. Now for this list, I will be talking about every theatrically released movie where Batman is the main character. The only exception to this rule is Zack Snyder's Justice League, because, I'm sorry, if I'm putting this garbage on the list, this masterpiece is going on there too. Lastly, look, we all have our favorite Batman movies, so odds are my list is not going to match up with yours. There should be nothing wrong with this, it's called having an opinion, but I can pretty much guarantee I'll have at least one schmuck who wants to lecture me about why I'm wrong in the comments section, so keep in mind, this is just my opinion. If you don't like it, I don't care. That being said, let's just get to it. I've discussed this film ad nauseum already, so let's keep this brief. I fucking despise this movie and everything it stands for. The way Warner Brothers fired Zack Snyder and took this film away from him during a time of tragedy was just disgusting. The humor added by Joss Whedon was horrendous. The way the film shortchanged the characters of Flash, Aquaman, and Cyborg was just criminal. The color palette was a joke. Danny Elfman's score is atrociously lazy. The CGI is awful. Steppenwolf is a garbage villain with no motivation. Look, if you want more of my thoughts on this film, you can watch my review from a few years ago. I'll leave the link in the description. I could go on, but quite frankly, discussing this film is making me lose motivation to do anything else today, and I have 13 more movies to talk about, so let's just move on. Okay, I understand that this version of Batman has its fans. I get that some consider this a classic. I have enormous respect for Adam West as an actor. He was a naturally hilarious man, may he rest in peace. My problem here is that despite it being a product of its time, it's just not for me. It never has been. I don't hate it by any stretch of the imagination. Please don't get that twisted. But even when I watched it as a kid, I remember asking my dad to just put on Batman Forever instead, because I just got more entertainment out of it. I can acknowledge its good parts, especially with the fun villains. I have nothing but respect for all the actors involved, and I understand that this was a product of its time, but for whatever reason, this one just never really did it for me. Sorry. Speaking of movies that failed to grab me, the Lego Batman movie. It can be argued should be much higher, but for me, this was a film I watched once and never had any ambition to watch again because of how unfunny and disappointing I found it to be. I rewatched it yesterday, and honestly, I felt the exact same way about it. For those who like this movie, there's nothing wrong with that. If you like it, that's great. I simply don't. It's probably the most forgettable Batman movie I've ever seen, even by animation standards. I didn't care for the humor, which is strange because I loved the Lego movie, and I loved Lego Batman in that movie. I didn't gravitate towards this story. I hated that they had to use villains from other Warner Brothers properties at the end of the film. Like, I'm sorry, but can you explain to me the difference between what this film did and what Space Jam 2 was doing? Both films seem to only exist for Warner Brothers to pat themselves in the back, at least from where I'm sitting. Probably gonna get a ton of shit for this one, but I really don't like this movie, guys. My apologies.
Because last I checked, I only had one butt.
Okay, look, we all know Batman and Robin is not a good movie. George Clooney and Joel Schumacher both apologized for the film, and even Chris O'Donnell compared the production to making a toy commercial. That's the movie you're in for here. It's campy, it's over the top, it's silly as hell, and I fucking love it. Honestly, I say this with no irony whatsoever, Batman and Robin is my #1 guilty pleasure film. I always have a blast every time I pop in the Blu-ray for this thing. It's hilariously campy, the ice puns are quotable as hell, and Gotham is so over-stylized, it's impossible for me not to enjoy it. And let me just add that while it's not a good movie overall, it does have good things in it that people don't acknowledge. Every scene with Alfred and Bruce is great in this movie. I mean, every single one is beautifully scored and well acted. This was the first Batman film to make Alfred a central character instead of just that guy in the background. I love how the movie touched upon the fact that when all is said and done, Alfred is Bruce's hero. The relationship between them is actually quite touching, and it bothers me that more people don't give it that credit.
You have done everything in your power to control the fates. But what is Batman, if not an effort to master the chaos that sweeps our world? An attempt to control death itself.
But I can't, can I?
None of us can.
In addition, while Schwarzenegger is over the top as hell as Mr. Freeze, the scenes where he's just thinking about his wife are quite good. That scene at the end where Bruce tells Freeze that his wife is still alive is just beautiful. This is one of the only superhero films I can think of where the main villain was completely reformed by the end, and literally the only one I know of where the hero actually gets on his knees and literally begs the villain for help.
She's alive.
So I'm asking you, Victor Freeze, help me save another life. And maybe you can also save the life of the man your wife once loved. He's still inside you, Victor. Buried. deep beneath the snow. Will you help me? Doctor.
I love that scene. It's very well done. It's a good thing in this movie that gets no credit because all people can do is bitch about what doesn't work. Yes, there's a lot that doesn't work. And yes, it is one of the worst movies on this list. And yes, technically it's a bad movie. That doesn't make it complete trash. It's a bad movie with some redeeming qualities that people tend to overlook. Lastly, let me just reiterate something I mentioned years ago in my Justice League review. Pretty much everything you hate this movie for had nothing to do with Schumacher. The ice punch, the set designs, the bat nipples, the campy dialogue, everything made to look like a toy that can be sold to kids. All of these things were studio mandates. So if people could please stop shitting on the one guy who actually did his goddamn job, that would be great. Oh, and let me point out one more thing. Had this movie not turned out the way it did, the Batman franchise would not have been put on ice, and none of you would have your precious Nolan trilogy. I think a certain movie deserves a thank you.
We're going to need a bigger cave. Batman and Robin.
I will always have a special place in my heart for this film. Batman Forever will always have a special place here. This was the first Batman-related thing I ever saw, and I have been a Batman fanboy ever since. And even years later, while I acknowledge its flaws, I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it has bad things in it, but I think a lot of people overlook the good aspects of it. Val Kilmer was an awesome Batman and Bruce Wayne, and not a bad replacement for Keaton at all. Chris O'Donnell, while annoying in Batman and Robin, was perfectly fine here, and I loved the parallels between him and Bruce, with both of their families being killed by psychopaths. That whole speech he gives to Robin about vengeance and letting it consume your life perfectly demonstrated how much he's grown as a character over the course of 3 movies. In Batman 89, he killed the Joker. In Batman Returns, he was a loose cannon until he met Selina Kyle and saw a mirror of what he could potentially become. Now, he sees Dick Grayson about to go down that same path, and he's desperately trying to stop him.
You make the kill. But your pain doesn't die with Harvey, it grows. So you run out into the night to find another face. And another. And another. Until one terrible morning you wake up and realize that revenge has become your whole life. And you won't know why.
Yeah, in ancient times they actually referred to this as character development. In terms of the villains, Tommy Lee Jones is absolutely ridiculous as Two-Face. He's comical and not threatening, and he looks so fucking stupid in that makeup. But I won't lie, he's a fucking riot. This movie has Jim Carrey in it, and I would argue that Tommy Lee Jones still has the funniest reaction in the entire film. I'm sorry, I crack up whenever I see that. Despite the fact that apparently Tommy Lee Jones did not like Jim Carrey, the two are hilarious together. They have good chemistry and play off each other well. Yes, it's campy and over the top and not really how you wanted to see the Riddler or Two-Face, but I can't sit here and say it isn't entertaining.
You're ruining my big party!
We're sick of waiting for you to deliver the Batman, dear boy.
Patience, so bifurcated one.
Pace as hell, we want him dead! And nothing brings out the Batman like a little murder and mayhem, baby.
Well, the least you could have done is let me in on the caper. We could have organized this, planned it, pre-sold the movie rights.
I also like how the movie delves more into Bruce's psyche as Batman and Bruce Wayne. The issue is, I wanted more of this, and apparently there was more of it that was sadly left on the cutting room floor. Fuck you, Warner Brothers. No, Batman Forever isn't great, but it's damn fun, and it has some really good Batman moments.
Val Kilmer, Tommy Lee Jones, Jim Carrey, Nicole Kidman, Chris O'Donnell. Batman Forever.
Yes, I know. How dare I put this epic masterpiece so low on the list? Adam, how dare you? A pox on your house. I like The Mask of the Phantasm a lot. Obviously, I love the animated series just like everyone else, and this film was a great companion piece to it. That being said, I've always found it just a bit overrated. For positives, I love the Phantasm as a villain. I love the Joker in this. I love the relationship between Bruce and Andrea, and Bruce missing the chance to have a normal life. There's some genuinely great drama in this film, especially for an animated film. It really takes its audience seriously. It has great drama, beautiful animation, and some wonderful voice work. However, there's a couple of logic issues with this movie that have always bugged the crap out of me. First and foremost, the movie cheats to throw you off the Phantasm's identity. What I mean by this is, we see the Phantasm kill someone in the opening scene. Then, 2 scenes later, the character who was later revealed to be the killer is now just arriving in Gotham. By plane. So, explain to me, how the hell could this person kill someone in a city they hadn't even arrived in yet? Then later on in the film, you know what, I'm just gonna play this scene and comment afterwards.
This time tomorrow, we'll have the money, or I'll have your heart in my hand.
Pack a suitcase. We've got to get to the airport now.
What? But you said you'd have the money.
The money's tied up in investments. Could take weeks to free up.
Bruce proposed to me. We're going to get married.
Oh god, if only I were engaged to a billionaire who had the money to pay these guys off. Oh wait, I'm totally engaged to a billionaire who could pay these guys off so we don't have to leave. Literally, Bruce could have paid these guys off, him and Andrea could have gotten married, Daddy lives, everyone's happy, problem fucking solved. Like, how do you not think of this? I'm sorry, this is a massive plot hole in the movie that goes completely unaddressed. Still, Mask of the Phantasm, despite these logic issues, is a damn good film. I just wouldn't go as far as to call it a masterpiece, is all I'm saying. Now, as I've said in the past, the Ultimate Edition of BVS is the only cut of the movie I acknowledge. The theatrical cut of the movie was absolute garbage because it had a ton of crap cut out of the movie that had the movie actually make sense. Well, all of that got put back in the Ultimate Edition, and we finally got the movie Zack Snyder wanted us to see. And in all fairness, it's a damn great one. This was a movie with a ton of ambition, and Zack Snyder took every opportunity he could to push the envelope here. He really wanted to create this world where the actions of the heroes are seen from several different perspectives and views, and for the most part, it works surprisingly well. Here we see a more experienced and broken Batman, whose hope is long gone. He's become reckless, more brutal, and his code is out the window. Personally, while a lot of people hated this Batman, I loved this Batman. It showed a Batman who had been doing this for 20 years and realized that his way of doing things really wasn't getting the job done anymore. He had lost all his faith in humanity.
He is not our enemy.
Not today. 20 years in Gotham, Alfred. We've seen what promises are worth. How many good guys are left? How many stayed that way?
And it took him almost killing Superman for him to get a clue, and realize that he's become no better than the man who gunned down his parents. The movie has great action, great acting, great themes. The whole dynamic between Batman and Superman was expertly done in this cut of the movie. Really, my only problems with the film were very minor. Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor was a little too weird, but I appreciated that he was trying to do something we hadn't seen before with the character. It's at the very least a unique take on him. I understand why people were turned off by the whole Martha scene, but I completely understood what Zack was going for in that scene, so it never really bothered me. It's little things like that, but yeah, I do love this movie. It's actually a movie that gets better for me the more I watch it. It honestly kills me that I couldn't put this higher on the list, but if that's not a testament to how great most Batman movies have been, I don't know what is. Now, I just reviewed this movie, so I'll keep this brief. If you want a more detailed look at my thoughts regarding this film, I'll leave a link to the review in the description. I really love this movie a lot. I thought Pattinson was a great Batman, and going in the noir direction that they did was a great move. Zoe Kravitz is the most comic-accurate Catwoman we have ever had. Jeffrey Wright was an awesome Jim Gordon, and I have to say, I love the back and forth between him and Pattinson. Paul Dano is great as the Riddler, and Colin Farrell is a great Penguin, even if they don't do a lot with him. My biggest issues were that the movie dragged on a bit too long. I really felt the runtime, and even with how long some of the Nolan films were, I never felt the runtime in any of them. I wish this movie just had a better flow to it. In addition, while I liked Pattinson as Batman, his Bruce Wayne left a bit to be desired in my opinion. Look, I'm not asking Bruce Wayne to go out, throw his money around in Gotham, and bang hookers, but something resembling a personality would be nice. The actor was told to just have the same monotone expression for the whole time, and I wish there was just more to him. I don't think I'm asking a lot, and I don't know why Reeves deprived this character of having a personality. Still, regardless of the issues I have, The Batman is still an awesome movie. I just like the next 6 films more. Now, again, I made it very clear that I loved the previous few movies on the list, so obviously I love this one even more. I really shouldn't have to justify why this is only at number 6. The fact is, there's just 5 other Batman movies I like more than this. That doesn't make this film less awesome, it doesn't make the themes less relevant, and it doesn't make Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker any less legendary. That being said, do I think the movie is a little overrated? Yes, I do. The ending of the movie was bullshit. It always has been bullshit. The Joker talking about how he's not the guy with the plan makes absolutely no sense when everything he does in the movie is carefully planned out to a T. Yeah, dog chasing cars my ass. And while I'm not at all against Batman disguising his voice, the throat cancer voice was the worst in this film out of all three. But when all is said and done, those are all very minor things when you take into account all the good the movie has to offer. The Joker's hypocrisy and things magically going his way throughout the movie don't make him any less of a great villain, Bale's cancer voice doesn't make him any less of a badass, and the ending didn't ruin the movie for me. The whole battle for Gotham's soul, the sequence on the ferries, Harvey Dent's transformation, Aaron Eckhart's performance, the unbelievably awesome chase scene through Gotham to apprehend the Joker, these all completely outweigh the few and far between problems in this film. Yes, I'll admit, I do prefer the gritty look of Gotham in The Batman over the clean and everyday look of Gotham here, but after seeing The Batman for a third time and then rewatching this film directly afterward, I got more enjoyment out of this one overall. It flowed better for me, I never felt the runtime, and Bruce Wayne, in my opinion, was a much more interesting character in this. Christopher Nolan truly crafted a beautiful film here. It's not my favorite film in his trilogy, but it's a damn good one.
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
I know many Nolan purists will call bullshit on this being above The Dark Knight, and let's just say, I respectfully disagree. I think both films are great for their own reasons. I have just always enjoyed this film more. Through and through, this feels more like a Batman movie. As great as The Dark Knight is, most of the film just feels like a crime drama that just happens to have Batman in it. In my honest opinion, this has the better Batman in Michael Keaton, it's more creatively crafted, it's better paced, has a lot more atmosphere, and it has the better score. Michael Keaton just owns the role of Batman and Bruce Wayne. You see him and you would never suspect he was Batman. He was absolutely perfect for the role. Also, I'm just gonna say it, Nicholson is my favorite on-screen Joker. Here's what I mean by that. When I look at Ledger, I see an anarchist. When I look at Joaquin Phoenix, I see a mentally ill man sick of the world. When I look at Jared Leto, I just see a crazy juggalo. But when I look at Nicholson, I only see the Joker. That's it. Plain and simple, cut and dry. Every scene Nicholson had as the Joker was fantastic. He has wonderful chemistry with both Michael Keaton and Kim Basinger, and he has some of the most memorable lines in any Batman film. Where does he get those wonderful toys is a line I actually use in everyday life whenever a friend shows me something cool. Tim Burton proved to everyone that Batman could work as a film and could be taken seriously. He took what was, up until then, something considered goofy in the film medium and made something dark, fun, and entertaining as all hell.
Wait till they get a load of me.
Batman Begins brought Batman back to the big screen after a long hiatus and many years in development hell. This was actually the first Batman film to fully flesh out Bruce's backstory about how he became Batman. And this isn't a knock on Burton and his approach or anything, it's just that Nolan handled Batman's backstory in such a believable and real-world manner, and in a way that was more in line with the comic origins. I loved how the film decided to focus on villains we hadn't seen before, like Ra's al Ghul and Scarecrow. It didn't just take the easy route. Liam Neeson killed it as Ra's al Ghul, and his chemistry with Christian Bale is wonderful. I loved every back and forth they had in the movie. The dialogue was very investing. Christian Bale was an awesome Bruce Wayne and Batman in this film. He plays on the duality of the character rather well. His Batman voice wouldn't really go into full lung cancer mode until The Dark Knight, but here it was fine. Cillian Murphy's Scarecrow was awesome, but sadly he was incredibly underused, not just in this film, but throughout Nolan's entire trilogy. Aside from that, my only real issue with the movie is the shaky cam. Scarecrow getting the shaft, the shaky cam, and the quick cut edits during the action scenes are really the only things keeping this from being higher on the list. Aside from those minor complaints though, Batman Begins was pretty much perfect. It should be no surprise to anyone who follows me that this film is so high up on the list. It was my favorite movie of last year, and I stand by the statement that this film is nothing short of a masterpiece. I will honestly never understand how Warner Brothers looked at this and opted to ruin it the way they did. This fleshes out the characters, and it features Ben Affleck's best performance as Batman. The entire story of him slowly regaining his faith in others as he brings the League together to battle Steppenwolf was expertly done. He is clearly a more developed character than he was in BVS, and Ben Affleck sold every scene he had. Other characters like Aquaman, Cyborg, and The Flash are fully realized characters in this version. The Flash gets the absolute best scene in the movie as he reverses time to save the world. Steppenwolf is actually a character this time around, a character with motivation, with goals, with a backstory that actually makes sense. There are too many moments in this movie to count where I just stood up and cheered. This damn thing is about 4 hours long and I never once felt the runtime. This is actually no surprise to me since Zack Snyder also made Watchmen and I never felt the runtime with that either. If you can make a 4-hour movie where I'm never bored and just want it to keep going, that's fucking impressive. This may be the last movie to see Ben Affleck's Batman as the main focus, but honestly, that's okay. Ben Affleck's Batman was perfect for this film, and Affleck should be proud. I will die on the hill that The Dark Knight Rises is still the best Batman movie ever made, in terms of what it does for the character, how epic it is in scale, how it executes its themes, and the sense of finality it gives to this version of the character. I've been singing this movie's praises since I saw it in theaters, and I'm still singing its praises after watching it again yesterday. Bane is my favorite of all the villains in the Nolan trilogy. This is a character who breaks Batman not only physically, but also mentally and spiritually. He doesn't just want to hurt Batman, he wants him to suffer while his city burns without him there to save it. What makes it so compelling is that Bruce and Bane are very similar. They're both members of the League of Shadows, are willing to go to extremes for what they believe, and they're both willing to die for what they believe in. Bruce will gladly die to save Gotham, while Bane will gladly die to see it burn. A lot of people love to bitch about the twist at the end with Talia, but I personally don't understand the reasoning for it. The movie gave you tons of hints that not only was Bane working with someone, but that it was her. How would Bane have known where Applied Sciences was unless he had someone on the inside? How could Bane have accessed Wayne Tower unless he had someone on the inside? It's honestly the only thing that has Bane's plan make any sense. If he wasn't working with anyone on the inside, I would have had a lot more questions after this movie ended. And in either case, him working with Talia did not make him any less of an awesome fucking villain. Marion Cotillard did a great job playing Talia, even if she does have one of the most hilariously bad death scenes ever put to film. Still, not letting that 3 seconds of the film ruin the rest of it for me. Gary Oldman killed it as Gordon in this film, just like he did in the last two. Michael Caine gave his best performance as Alfred in this one, and his final scene in the mansion with Bruce was beyond heartbreaking. That scene alone solidified Caine as my favorite on-screen Alfred. Anne Hathaway was a great Catwoman, not my favorite, but damn impressive and accurate to the comics. I loved her scenes with Bale. Joseph Gordon-Levitt was a nice addition to the cast, and despite the backlash towards it, I loved the ending of this movie. The legacy that Bruce leaves behind is that Batman is more than just a person. Batman is a symbol. Batman can be anyone. He is a symbol of hope. To date, I can't think of many finales to a trilogy that have been as satisfying as The Dark Knight Rises. It has the best acting, the best themes, and the best action of the entire Dark Knight trilogy. I cannot praise this film enough. Now, I meant what I said talking about The Dark Knight Rises. I honestly believe that it is the best Batman film ever made. However, there is no Batman film I would rather watch than Batman Returns. It's one of my favorite films. It's a film that I can watch time and time again and never get tired of. It has my favorite Batman in Michael Keaton. It has my favorite Catwoman in Michelle Pfeiffer, and I adore the film's creativity. I don't think Tim Burton has ever made another film where his creativity has shined brighter. Batman Returns sees Batman going up against three villains: the disgusting Penguin, played by Danny DeVito, the seductive Catwoman, played by Michelle Pfeiffer, and the millionaire Max Schreck, played by Christopher Walken. What makes these villains so compelling is not just the way Burton portrays them, but how each of these villains mirrors a part of Bruce himself. The Penguin is the version of him that believes he's a freak, Catwoman his vigilante side, and even Max Schreck is a dark representation of the rich socialite Bruce must pretend to be on a daily basis. Danny DeVito is funny, menacing, and gross as the Penguin, Michelle Pfeiffer is sexy, cunning, and unbelievably badass as Catwoman, and Christopher Walken is hilarious as the devious Max Schreck, who acts as the devil on the Penguin's shoulder for much of the movie. I love this cast of characters. You would only find them in a Tim Burton movie. The action is amazing, the visuals are some of the best I've ever seen. This is my favorite version of Gotham City. Tim Burton took what he did in the original film and cranked the crazy up to 10, and the sequel was all the better and more memorable for it. The big criticism levied against this movie is the fact that Keaton's Batman does kill. However, if you watch the damn movie, you would know that this is Batman's arc throughout the film. Ever since killing the Joker, he's become a loose cannon. He only lives for being the Batman and nothing else now. It takes him seeing how far Selina Kyle has gone down the rabbit hole as Catwoman for him to get a clue. Batman v Superman did something very similar to this with Ben Affleck's Batman. However, this not only did it first, but, in my opinion, better. And this development, as I mentioned earlier, would carry over into Batman Forever. If you want a more in-depth analysis in this film, I'll leave my old review of the film in the description. For now, let me just say that Batman Returns is my favorite Batman film, and most likely will always be my favorite Batman film. You may hate it, but to me, it's perfection. So how would you rank the Batman movies? Please let me know in the comments, provided you all stayed after all my hot takes. And if you are still here, please subscribe if you'd like to see more.
Above Gotham looms its greatest hero.